Well, I tried to tell you all that Arkansas was a trap game, and unfortunately for the Tennessee Vols, they fell for the trap. Now, can they bounce back against one of their biggest rivals in the Florida Gators, who have had their number in recent years? Hello, everybody. You're listening to the College Sports Superfan, and today we're previewing the game between the Florida Gators and the Tennessee Volunteers. Right before I get into my predictions of this game, I just wanted to say that now I do have a winning record of 19 and 17, even with that shocking upset. Of course, I picked Tennessee to win that game. But I'm 19 and 17 overall on the season, so my winning record will continue to just grow from here, I assure you. So we've got Florida at Tennessee, 7 o'clock nighttime game in Knoxville. Let's go over Florida's team first before we get to the home team, the number 8 Volunteers. So the Florida Gators, they've seemed to be figuring out their passing game, even though they've still got two quarterbacks they're going back and forth between. But against Mississippi State and against UCF most recently, the passing game seemed more efficient, as you can see on screen here. They're still going back and forth between Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. Graham Mertz currently has 666 yards, so 666, not a good omen right there, and 77% completion percentage with 5 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions. And then the talented freshman DJ Lagway has 667 yards, so literally one more yard with 69% completion, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So just based on those numbers right there, Mertz is now doing slightly better than Lagway. As you saw in that UCF game, they were both on the field pretty evenly. And Mertz has been more efficient, as I've just said, but Lagway does have more big play potential. He does average more yards through the air than Mertz does, who has a higher completion percentage, mostly because he's checking it down so much more frequently. And then Montrell Johnson, he's a key part of this Florida offense. He's been a solid running back. He's got 288 yards and 4 touchdowns. And again, he's been with head coach Billy Napier all the way back to his Louisiana Lafayette days. You have Elijah Badger, who is a transfer, I believe, from Arizona State, and he's done really, really well. He's surprisingly emerged as the main wide receiver, and he played really good in that UCF game as well, as you can see. But he currently has 346 yards with 2 touchdowns, but there's also players like Eugene Wilson and Shamari Dike, who are solid receivers as well. On the edge, on defense, they've got TJ Searcy, who has 18 tackles, George Gums, who has 15 tackles and 3 sacks, Jack Pyburn, who has 20 tackles, Tyreek Sapp, who has 20 tackles with 2.5 sacks, and Cam Jackson, who has 17 tackles. So this defensive line for Florida, particularly on the ends, has been really, really good. I've been very impressed with the Gators on that point. And at linebacker, they've got some really good players. They've got Shamar James, who has 22 tackles and an INT. Grayson Howard, who's got 24 tackles and a fumble recovery. RJ Moten, who has 18 tackles. And Jaden Robinson, who has 21 tackles. So they're very good at linebacker there. And then at defensive back, they've got some serious superstars in the secondary. They've got Jordan Castle, who has 23 tackles. They have Sharif Denson, who has 17. Jason Marshall, who has 16. And then here's a big-time player, Triquezy Bridges, I'm hoping I'm saying his name right, has 19 tackles. So overall, they've got a lot of solid players in the secondary, but really that front seven, the D-line and the linebackers, I'm most impressed with for the Florida Gators. And I feel like they've gotten better and better and more disciplined on that side of the ball so far as the season has gone on. And again, they've got back-to-back impressive wins over Mississippi State and a solid UCF team. And as for number 8, Tennessee, surprisingly, and I'm saying this even as a Tennessee fan, because look, I try to be neutral in these videos, but I mean, as you can see with some of these other things I've got on display, I am a Tennessee fan, obviously, but I try to keep it neutral in these videos. But I was shocked that Tennessee only fell to number 8. I really thought after Tennessee and Alabama, too, by the way, I really thought after both of them lost those games, because those are games they really should have won. I thought they would have both dropped out of the top 10. I was very surprised to see Tennessee only fall to number 8 and Alabama only fall to number 7, and Arkansas and Vanderbilt to not even be in the top 25. That, if I was a fan of either one of those teams, I would be frustrated. Frustrated because I cannot believe you beat a top 5 team. I don't care if it's at home or not, and you're not in the top 25 after beating the number 1 team or the number 4 team in the country. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I would have at least put them in there, even if they were just barely in there. But that's just my personal take on that. But anyways, Tennessee only fell to number 8, which means that they're still in a great spot to not only make it to the college football playoff, but also host a playoff game in Knoxville. They've still got a great spot there, but now that they've lost this game, they cannot have very many more slip-ups. They've still got Alabama coming up soon right after Florida. They've got Georgia, who's number 5 in the country, coming up later in the season as well. And if you're thinking that those two are losses, that would put Tennessee at 9-3, which in my opinion would probably keep them just out of the playoff. So they really can't have any more slip-ups. But let's talk about this Tennessee Volunteers team. Their defense has gotten much better with defensive coordinator Tim Banks. They've only been giving up 9.4 points per game on the season. Their defense has played great against teams like Oklahoma, where they only gave up 15 points. Arkansas, even in that loss, they only gave up 19 points. And again, it was the offense that lost the game for them, not the defense, which is rare for Tennessee these days. Nico showed his inexperience. That's really all I think it is. He's still a freshman quarterback, tons and tons of talent, but you got to keep in mind that he is very young and very inexperienced still. But here's one thing I'm just going to say before I talk about his numbers real quick, just to go on a little bit of a mini rant here. The penalties. Tennessee is so ridiculously undisciplined, and it's mind-blowing that Josh Heupel is in his 4th year as head coach. At the beginning of his time, you could excuse it. Okay, he was a new coach, first couple of years, whatever. Every single game, penalties, penalty, penalty. And I literally said early in some of my earlier Tennessee previews, if they keep committing penalties like this, it is going to cost them in a close game. And well, we saw against Arkansas, they were in a close game. They were committing dumb penalties. Arkansas, fortunately for Tennessee, was committing dumb penalties too. But ultimately, Tennessee still had 10 penalties in that game, giving up 85 free yards. And just crucial mistakes, especially running into the punter, which you're going to see on these highlights here in just a little bit. Running into the punter to give Arkansas a new set of downs. It's stupid stuff. And I don't know if that's because of a coaching style, but that's what's got to get fixed with Tennessee. Otherwise, they are going to lose more games this season. But Nico, he's been very promising as a young quarterback. I've been really impressed with his skill level. He's got 1,050 yards, 7 passing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions on a 66% completion percentage. Obviously, that completion percentage dropped way down because of this Arkansas game. And Dylan Sampson has still been one of the best running backs in the country. 587 yards, 6.5 yards per carry with 12 touchdowns. At receiver, Dante Thornton has still been the main guy. He's got 284 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Brew McCoy has 209 yards, but no receiving touchdowns. Surprisingly, McCoy and Squirrel White have both been kind of quiet for Tennessee's offense this season. On defense, they've got superstars at all 3 levels. On the defensive line, they have James Pierce, who has 12 tackles, and overall, the D-line has a very deep rotation. The stats are really spread out amongst the rest of the guys once you get past James Pierce. At linebacker, they've got 2 great players. One of them a transfer from BYU, Keenan Keeley, who has 28 tackles, and then Arian Carter at linebacker has 23 tackles. So those 2 linebackers have been amazing. And then defensive back Will Brooks, who has a huge hit in that Arkansas game that you're going to see here. 23 tackles and a pick 6 on the season. He has been very impressive at defensive back. Tennessee's got stars all along the defense. I think Tim Banks has done a great job rebuilding it. So Tennessee right now, heading into this intense rivalry game against Florida, is 15.5 point favorites. Keep in mind, they were 14.5 point favorites against Arkansas. So they're still favored by a good bit, but we just saw that sometimes doesn't mean much, especially going up against the Florida Gators, who unfortunately for Tennessee has had their number. Listen to this. Florida leads the all-time rivalry series 32-21. Tennessee won the first 10 matchups, and they've been playing since 1916. However, Florida has basically had the advantage in this rivalry since 1976. If you look back from there till now, Florida's won the majority of the matchups. And there have been some really bad Florida teams that have beaten some really great Tennessee teams. And the Gators last year upset Tennessee 29-16 at home after Joe Milton, who's from the Florida area, said that he has never lost in the state of Florida. And then the Gators took that to heart and beat Tennessee 29-16. And that was the year after Tennessee won a 38-33 thriller in 2022. So, just like 2022, they're back in Knoxville. It's going to be a rockin' nighttime atmosphere. The Vols are fired up looking for a big win, a big bounce back after what they did against Arkansas. But will they get it against a team that, once again, has had their number historically? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say the Volunteers' defense shows up and will shut down either Graham Mertz or DJ Lagway, who I'm assuming Florida will still use both of them, but Mertz will probably be put in as the starter, just like he was against UCF, and I'm assuming we're going to see a similar thing there. But I trust the Volunteers' defense. I think they're going to shut down Montrell Johnson, which means that Florida's going to have to rely on those quarterbacks to win the game through the air. And I just don't think either one of them on the road in that hostile of an environment is good enough to do it. It may be a low-scoring game, a really low-scoring game, much lower than people think it will be. But I think Tennessee is going to bounce back strong. They're still probably going to commit 8 to 10 penalties because that's just the way that it is. And as a result of that, this game is going to be closer than it should be. But Tennessee is going to win by 10 points. All right, thank you guys so much for listening to the College Sports Superfan. Stay tuned because we've got tons of huge matchups this week. Can't wait to get into all of them. There'll be more videos coming out today and tomorrow, so stay tuned for those as there's plenty of big-time matchups. And also remember to vote in the poll. There should still be a little bit of time to vote for that for the fan game of the week as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.